I mean, you've got your sort of standard ones, like, acrophobia, fear of heights, arachnophobia, fear of spiders, that claustrophobia.
Islamophobia.
That is...
Sorry, just I'll chuck that one in there.
Hello and welcome to Grumpy Old Men. We see this as a public service and therefore I've got two really grumpy people with me. Please welcome Kev and Mike. Let's kick off with Mike, who is grumpy about caravan?
Caravan bores.
Oh, caravan bores.
Caravan bores, yeah.
Oh.
I don't know much about caravans, right?
What do you need to know about them?
It appears you don't want to.
You stick them on the back of the car and you sleep in them, that's about it.
Well, actually, no, you would think that, right? But if you've ever been to a caravan park, you would know that that is not a simple answer. Because I once was the recipient of a free sort of, I wouldn't call it a Winnebago, it was a Fiat, actually. But it was quite a big sort of Slep 13,
like a mobile home.
Mobile home, yeah. Anyway, I had to stay at the Caravan and Camping Club venues all around the sort of in the West Country, right?
Yeah.
And because I had this apparently state-of-the-art, brand new Fiat thing.
Oh, you were
a star.
I came in and would I'd park it up, right?
Fresh meat.
Within 5 minutes. Oh. And there'd be a guy with his wife.
How did you find your Fiat?
You got one of the new 3000 VXs, have you?
How's it self-levelling?
And I'm going, yeah. And they would all want us to come in, walk around, and they kept asking me questions.
Can I have a look in your cassette toilet?
And they would literally, it didn't stop. I sort of had to pretend I was asleep inside after a while because they wouldn't come in and just bore me to death with their stories of caravan daring do.
Wow.
That's about it really. But I'd never want to do it again.
I don't know why, Mike, but dogging is coming to mind for me.
Is it?
You don't dog with them.
Well, I did have my kids with me. The other thing I found out is that if you do get one of these things, and if it's that big, you're supposed to take either a motorcycle or another car to tow behind you, because otherwise you have to go everywhere in it. So I used to have to go everywhere in this great big huge thing. So to go to the Tesco's, I had to park it about a mile away from the shop. Because it was like, once we went to Dinosaur.
Well, also you've got the height restriction.
Yeah, we went to Dinosaur World, right? And I had to park it, on a hill.
Of course you did.
Yeah, I had to park it on a hill. Funny enough, there was no exhibit with me in it. And I had to park it on a hill. And
Mike
it was
clearly says here, Mike's grump this week is caravan balls.
Yeah.
I might question you as to whether you are one or not.
I'll
anyway,
stop now.
let's move on. Kev?
Eurovision.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah, I'll tell you why I'm saying
this is family ground here.
I changed it. I changed it to Eurovision because at first my grump was because who wear shit hats. But Chuck asked me to change that. Yeah. So Eurovision. No, seriously, did
unnecessary roughness.
Hold on, he's going to go back to the hat.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going back to that. I've had enough of the hat. Eurovision, did you notice, was it just me, or was there a lot less pre-publicity for this year's event?
It suddenly was just on.
It just fell off a cliff, didn't it? So I'm wondering whether the public haven't reached that point, it's so great, let's have a Eurovision party, it's so camp and funny. I think that the joke has worn thin. I think people have just about had enough of it.
Yeah.
We are, of course, as always, useless. The group Remember Monday, a sort of female girl group, three of them.
What are we 19th?
Their song, What the Hell Just Happened, which I had a personal
Did they nick that from your show?
Yeah, I was furious about it. They'll be hearing from my lawyers. No, seriously, they came 19th out of 26, and they got
the usual.
They got no their points. Song was an homage to you, Kev.
Yeah, that's the way I took it. That's the way I read it. But they got no votes at all from the public all over the world. No vote, null point.
I was going to say 19th out of 26 is better than normal, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. I don't watch it. I can't be bothered. Elton John said the same. He said, even though he wrote a song for it once,
he did.
In fact,
I don't care. I didn't win.
No.
I'm never watching it again.
Also, so I think the public have reached that kind of
I'm rich.
Quantum mass with it. They've had enough of it.
It's also, particularly now that it seems to have turned into another, pro-Palestine.
Exactly what I was going to say. It's also developed this very nasty political edge.
It always had that.
No, not as much as this year. The Israeli girl, who was one of the people who survived that Novo rock festival on October the 7th by hiding under her dead friends, a really brave girl. She got up on stage, all these pro-Palestine idiots like jeering her, booing her, people trying to storm the stage, chucking paint at her, disgusting. And now, because she came second, because the public voted her into second place brilliantly, Spain and Belgium, they're anti-Semitic
Belgians,
people.
they'll do it every time.
They say that the voting has been
Mayonnaise
rigged.
with chips.
No, they say the voting has been rigged so that Israel could do so well. I say it was rigged so that Israel didn't win. Because as Graham Norton, the BBC host, said, he said, you can almost sense the relief in the auditorium that next year's event won't have to be in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
So I say it was rigged to stop Israel.
Maybe they
winning.
could just rig it and stop doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
rig it
that
so that it
nasty
doesn't
political edge has made it even worse.
All I can say is it wouldn't have happened in my father's day.
I agree with that.
You know, that was a better time.
Yes,
It was a better time, and Eurovision was better. Anyway, moving on. Phobias.
Phobias. Have you got any?
I'm not mad on heights.
Uh-huh.
You know, but apart from that, I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't think I have any phobias, really.
But the thing
I do.
is,
Insects.
insects.
And insects and spiders.
Well, spiders.
Terrified of them.
Yeah. But I mean, there are your sort of, my whole point with this is, right, there are your top sort of 2010 sort of phobias, which are arachnophobia and all that kind of thing. But now there's a phobia for everything.
Yeah.
And back then, you know, back when we were younger, if you had a phobia, right, and it was maybe a little bit out there, you kept it to yourself.
Yes.
Because you knew you'd be ridiculed.
Right.
And therefore maybe that cured you of the phobia.
Yeah, if you went to somebody in your school and said, I'm scared to death of spiders, they'd just start collecting them and throwing them at you.
Exactly.
Wouldn't they?
Exactly. But now...
They did.
To you, yeah.
But now...
Or you
free reign, free reign with whatever phobia you like. Right?
There's an amazing list of them, isn't there?
There's an amazing... I've got it here.
Yeah.
And they are stupid. All right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got your sort of standard ones, like, you know, acrophobia, fear of heights, you know, arachnophobia, fear of spiders, that claustrophobia. I mean, you know...
Islamophobia.
That is...
Just like chuck that one in there. You know.
But what
Irrational fear of Muslims.
What about nomophobia?
What is that?
What is that?
That is a fear of being without your smartphone.
Really?
Yes.
What does the NOMO bit stand for?
I don't know.
There might be
traditional then, is it?
Is there a FOMO-phobia, like fear of missing out?
Yeah,
phobia?
probably.
Well, that is a
what
phobia.
about pognophobia?
Pognophobia, no.
It's
Beards.
Very good.
Fear of beards.
fear of beards.
I don't like beards much, but I'm not frightened of them.
And he doesn't like. Hold on. He doesn't like hats. You don't like beards.
Yeah.
I'm
Are you feeling the hate?
I'm feeling the hate right now.
Sorry about
Hold on. All right. What about?
Hate glasses as well. Mind you, that brings us all in.
Exactly.
That's all of us. Self-hatred.
There's a bit of self-loathing there, Kev.
There's a lot of specs in this room, aren't there?
Yeah, there are.
So, omphalophobia. Omphalophobia.
Omphalophobia. Is it phallus involved?
No.
No.
It's a fear of navels.
Navels?
Yep.
That's weird.
Turophobia?
Fear of touring?
No. Fear of cheese?
Cheese?
Yep.
I mean, I haven't got that.
No.
My
I definitely haven't got that.
favourite one, which if you live in this country is a problem, ombraphobia.
Ombraphobia. No.
Rain, umbrellas.
Yeah.
He's good at this.
He's good at this.
Yeah.
Anyone would think he sort of did something with words previously.
Yeah, well, I was
No, but
He's left that behind quite
The
succinctly.
thing about what you're saying, though, about phobias and mental health problems, Rod Liddle wrote about this last week in the Sunday Times, I think it was. He said that mental health for kids now, and phobias and scares,
sport.
what they're frightened. No, it's become aspirational.
Yeah.
They think it's a really good thing to have all these mental problems.
Yeah.
You know, guess what problems I've got? Guess what my mental health, my phobias.
My neurodiversity is this.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, it's like a sliding scale, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the way, what exactly is neurodiversity?
Well, it's people who are not
everything.
like everybody else.
Neurodiverse.
It's basically like people who are not like everybody else. Like you could be an autistic.
You're definitely
autistic.
neurodiverse, Kev.
Yeah,
I would say.
You could be slightly ADHD. Yeah, you could be, slightly obsessive.
I would say
Idiots.
they're special, they're different.
It's something, it's
They're
something that there wouldn't have been a category for in the old days.
No,
you just
would have been like, he's a bit odd.
Attention
That guy's a
seeking.
bit odd.
They're attention
It would
seeking.
range from attention seeking all the way through to he's a bit odd.
He's a bit odd, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Well, thank you.
Now it's, I'm I'm on the spectrum.
But it's
That's
also,
right.
but
Whereas
it's also,
before,
yeah.
people went, he's on the spectrum.
Yeah, right.
Now you go, I'm
I'm on it, yeah.
That's
But that's
right.
the thing. And now, obviously, the more on it you are, the better. You know, so if you can be autistic and have ADHD, you know,
if you've
the
got
double-
that, I tell
double
you what,
plus.
if you've got that, you could be a social media star.
Yeah, totally.
Your kids coming
You
out.
could have a TikTok
do you think
page
there's a chance
where you tell people,
Yeah.
today I counted 93 matchsticks and cried into my
Yeah. I was gonna
grape
go out
nuts
for
that
some soup.
that were 443 in the bowl.
I was going to go out for some soup, but I was too frightened. Right? And I mean, the trouble is, I think some people are faking it now.
Really?
Yeah, because especially if you can make money out of it.
Well,
You're
I
gonna
mean,
fake it, aren't
you could have a mental health podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
I could.
God.
There's a lot of them out there.
God, yeah.
It's a crowded
Please,
area.
no.
It's a crowd.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great. Well, is it because, really, at the end of the day, there is no such thing as normal, and it's the ones
Yeah.
who think they're normal
Yes.
are the ones you've got to be afraid
That
of.
may well be true.
Because, I mean, if, for example, Kev was like, I'm perfectly normal,
Yeah.
we'd all be like, yeah, mate.
Yeah, of course you are. I was once told when I first started working in radio, you can't call people normal.
Really?
Yeah, because it's, you know, you can't.
Is that an insult?
Because it excludes so many people. If you, when you say something like, you know, well, I mean, what do normal people think?
What about normal people?
What do normal people
and
think?
then the completely abnormal person over there goes, well, I think. And you go, yes.
Yeah, mind
Well,
you,
thank you.
most of those radio rules are always worth breaking. They don't
Yes.
make any sense.
Yeah.
But normal people, I think it's okay to say. Tell you what I don't like calling people, because I don't mean it as, in a derogatory sense, is ordinary people.
Ordinary
Yes.
people.
That
What
sounds
about
like...
working people?
Oh, God.
Working
No,
people.
The
hard-working
working
people.
man.
Well, this is what Labour calls
know.
them all the time.
That's what I always say about
Working
these
people.
politicians. These politicians will go, hard-working people, hard-working people. I just go, what about us lazy bastards? You know, why don't you ever do anything for us?
I am professionally lazy. It takes effort.
It does.
Anyway, Mike, EDF.
Yes, I had an interesting afternoon today.
Did you?
Yeah, one of the reasons we're
Is it
filming
as
this-
interesting as your caravan experience?
It's even better than that.
Okay, good.
It's the way I tell them.
I liked the caravan.
I started to get these missives about, I don't know, 2 months ago from my electric supplier about how I had to change over to a smart meter.
Is that because you keep not paying your bill?
No, it's because they say that if you've got an old meter, which is the meter I've always had, I didn't ask for an old meter, I just happened to have one, you run the risk of either not getting the right tariff or you might even not get electricity at all.
Ooh.
So I started to get a bit fed up with this. So eventually I thought I better ring them because I just kept ignoring it. But it was like warning letters that were coming. You know, don't forget, you know, big red letters. You know, you must do this. And almost
Do
as
this,
though,
otherwise
well,
you
somebody's
know,
going to come and arrest you.
We'll take you back to the
Yeah.
Middle Ages.
And then eventually I had a row with them because it was Scottish Power. And I said, you know, you people, I've been giving you, and you know, I said, look, what do I have to do? They said, you have to wait in for the engineers to come and fix it. And I said, okay. Well, how long does that take? And they said, we have to wait in for a window of 4 hours.
They've got to get down from Scotland.
And I said, 4 hours? I said, I'm
a
not
long
doing
way to
4
go.
hours. I said, I've got a job, you know.
Is anywhere near
Anyway,
Kilmarnock?
so we ended up, yeah, not far.
Have you got Scottish power? down
Not
here?
anymore.
Oh, okay.
But you can. You're owned by Spanish.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, so-
They're
okay,
actually
I
a
get-
Spanish
yeah, I get it,
company.
yeah.
It's, you know. Anyway, so I chucked them off and got a new supplier, who of course then came back and said the same thing. We've got to replace your meters. I went fine because by this time I was accepting it. So I waited in from 12 o'clock till 4 o'clock, and they never rang. They never turned up. At 3:30, because I knew I had to come in here, I rang the headquarters of EDF, which is now the new supplier, and got this woman who sounded foreign, to be honest. And I don't want to make a big deal of that, but she was obviously
might.
reading from a script, shall we say, right? And can I get your name?
Was it actually a person?
I think it was.
Could have been a
person.
chatbot.
It sounded like somebody in China, for all, you know, to be honest.
Probably was.
And once she got through all the niceties of like, oh yeah, I've got your account. I said, yeah. I said, you know, I've been waiting here for 3.5 hours. They said they were going to call half an hour
The
before they
4-hour window
arrive.
is about to close.
And I said, obviously, if they arrive, if they ring me now, they won't be able to do it in time because it won't be between 12 and 4. And she just kept saying to me, please wait till 4 o'clock. I'm like, no, if they come, even the next 10 minutes, they're going to spend half an hour. It's going to go past 4 o'clock. I have to go out. What am I supposed to do? And so we had this conversation that went on for about 5 minutes.
Where she
after
was
having
begging
been on
you
hold.
to stay till 4.
Yeah, and she just kept repeating the same thing. And eventually she just
You
hung...
weren't acting out some sort of fantasy of being wanted.
No,
with this
I
woman.
really wasn't.
Okay,
And
just
also, I
check.
wasn't swearing. I was quite calm. And she just put the phone down on me.
Mike,
right?
please stay.
She
Please.
put the phone down on me. and said, "Is there not somebody else
is
there?"
Kev texting EDF now?
He is, yeah.
To find out.
I said,
He's sorry, you'll have to excuse me.
Yeah.
He's neurodiverse.
It's neurodiverse.
ADHD
It's
has
not
kicked
normal.
in.
I'm just changing my carrier.
So I just said,
What, to pigeon?
Yeah.
No more Scottish
She
power
said,
for
"Have you
me."
got somebody else there?" I said, "No," which also was none of her business, really.
Yeah, no.
You know, there's nobody else living there. I live there on my own. And so, as a result, I've come here.
So she wanted to know if you were single.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, so now I don't know what to do because I haven't heard
Wanted
from
to
them.
ensure he wasn't.
I
You're gonna
can
be
only
without
assume
power.
that I'm going to lose my
Next
electricity.
week, we're going to hear
at
about
the end of-
Mike being returned
the end
to
of
the Middle
June.
Ages by Scottish
His
power.
grunt will be power
Not by
cuts.
Scottish Power, by
No,
EDF.
by EDF,
Yeah.
who are French.
So I don't have any idea what is going on.
Or are they Belgian?
I think they're French.
They are French.
I think they are French, yeah. So
Listen-
anyway, what a nightmare.
Listen, the minute you have to indulge any time with any of these kind of big companies, it sucks at least half of your day.
And she
away.
kept saying to me, we don't have anything to do with the engineers who are coming. I said, look,
Well, you
rang
do.
me, you
You
rang
work-
me
they
yesterday.
work
for the
company.
same
And I
company.
no, they
yeah.
don't because they contracted out. But I said, you called me yesterday to tell me to be in. That was you people that called me. I made the booking through
You've
you.
called me all the way from
Yeah.
Bangalore
Yeah.
to tell me that the
Or
bloke,
Beijing.
the bloke round the corner's not coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they didn't come.
Kev, lefty teachers.
Lefty teachers, yeah. Well, I was particularly. I've been annoyed about lefty teachers for a long time.
Since you were at
because
school.
They are. Yeah. You see, the thing is, when I was at school, when we were at school,
When I was at school,
teachers
all
were not
teachers were
lefty.
right wing.
No.
They tended to be right wing. They
Yeah.
tended to be Nazis when I was at school.
Whoa,
In fact, they were Nazis because it was during the war.
a school in
No,
Germany.
seriously. These teachers for many
Grew up
years
near the
now,
Black Forest, Kev, did
they've been brainwashing our kids with left-wing claptrap. And it's not even facts. So I got particularly annoyed yesterday when I learned, you must have seen the story, that teachers around this country have been teaching kids that Stonehenge was constructed by black people, by people of colour. Here's the
They
deal.
were Welsh,
Here's
weren't
the deal. There's an outside chance that Stonehenge could have been constructed by people of colour, but it's unlikely. And
They don't even know if it was constructed, do they?
Exactly. In fact, no one really knows.
That's the point.
So these teachers, though, because of their worldview, have decided, let's tell the kids it was black people, because that fits into their groupthink, doesn't it? Also, here's another thing. The National Education Union, big teachers union, just had their annual conference, and they told all their teacher members that you've got to go back to your classrooms and you've got to teach your kids about the plight of Palestine.
Very
They didn't
important.
say go back and tell them about Israel as well. So lefty teachers are probably the most dangerous set of people in this country because they are creating, have been for some time now,
But if the whole
creating
union-
generations of left-wing woke idiots who don't know anything, who've actually been taught
And
wrong.
now they're all in government.
They've been taught wrong facts. It's unbelievable, and they end up in Labour governments.
So, in terms of the Stonehenge thing, as we've established, nobody really knows how it got there,
Or where the stones came
or
from.
where the stones came from. In the same way that we don't really know how they built the pyramids,
No.
but there was definitely some black people helped build those.
I think so. I saw a new thing about
I think there was a
pyramids
whole
the other day,
slave thing
That the actual pyramid is just the top
Yeah.
of a huge pillar that goes all the way down.
All
into
the way
centre.
down.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before.
Yeah, yeah.
I only saw it the other
I
way.
don't think it's true, but, it's one of those Facebook things.
Yeah.
But
I
I
did it
think-
on the show. We got about 300,000 views on YouTube.
But the thing with that is,
They love it.
that is how history always has a habit of rewriting itself. And over the years, it's like things change. Somebody just decides, well, that's a better story.
Yeah.
We'll go with that, right? Fine. But when you've got a whole union saying to its members, you need to do something this way, that doesn't...
You need to teach your kids propaganda. Listen to this. In this country now, check this out, only 1 in 10 schools teach their kids about the battles of Trafalgar and the Battle of Waterloo. Only 1 in 10 schools.
surprised it's any.
So you've got millions of kids coming out of school and they've never heard of the Battle of Waterloo and the Battle of Trafalgar. I'm all for teaching kids, about the panorama of the world, being a little less British-centric. But to cut out these key moments of British history is a sort of epic feat of hating your own country, isn't it? And it's so divisive and pernicious.
But we're very good as a nation, or certain aspects of our nation are very good at being embarrassed.
Yes.
We're
My
brilliant at being
favourite Stonehenge reenactment, by the way. Do you remember that guy? I think
There was a Stonehenge reenactment?
There was a Stonehenge reenactment by this guy. They filmed it.
Like making it?
Channel 4. No, trying to move the
cardboard.
stones.
Oh, right.
Trying to move the stones.
Right.
And he got them as far as the Bristol Channel. By rolling logs. And and he got all the way to the Bristol Channel. And he loaded the first one, he loaded it onto this ship, this boat, and it sank. And it just went, and you were just watching this guy's face as the first stone just went all the way to the bottom of the Bristol Channel. And he went, I suppose it didn't do it this way then.
No. But that was impressive.
Well, it depends whether. They could have done, couldn't they?
They could have brought them over the Severn Bridge,
Yeah,
obviously.
they could have.
That's possible. The old one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the
Get
new
them on
one.
the back of a sort of Pantechnic and drive it up the M4 and then
exactly.
down off.
And then crane it in.
Take it. Take
I mean,
a left.
to be honest,
Could be an
how hard
elaborate-
is it to build Stonehenge?
Could be an elaborate
nowadays?
folly.
Yeah.
Could be an
I
elaborate
think it's
folly.
overrated as a structure.
Yeah.
Talking of overrated, Gary Lineker.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know he's come up a little bit on your show, Plank
has.
of the Week. And when I was
He'll
on...
be on again this week.
When I was on, well, because, you see now, Gary, and I want to say this to Gary, I personally cannot
Second word's
question Gary's ability as a footballer,
Yeah.
his ability as a football pundit,
Yeah.
and his opinion on the game and everything that surrounds the game. I think brilliant at that.
Yeah.
Why jump out your lane?
I know. Well, because
Why do people jump out of their lane?
Because I
This
think
is my gripe.
Kevin has said this before about people that he's observed in the public eye. They become fascinated by their own opinions.
Yes.
They think that they're actually really, really clever and that their opinions must therefore be heard on everything.
And addicted to their own fame, addicted to headlines.
Especially in the now BBC,
Well,
where you get sort of treated like God.
Yeah,
you know?
well, here's the thing, right? So, growing up as I did with a famous person, we had a term in our house which was called "they've got a terrible case of famous person disease."
Yes.
Which is when you become incredibly famous and nobody, for a period of anywhere between 6 minutes and 6 years, has not told you to shut them up.
Yes.
Because
Nobody does.
nobody does.
Right.
Because when you are really famous, what happens is you walk into a room and everyone goes,
Yeah.
and you just talk,
Yeah.
and they
Everybody
carry on
laughs.
smiling at
Everybody
you.
laughs at
Everybody
your
laughs.
jokes.
Your
And you
jokes
just
are
assume
funnier.
everybody thinks you're hilarious. Right?
You're more attractive.
Yeah.
You know, all of that thing. And it is.
You know, I've been around famous people all my checkered career, your dad included, and your dad is one of the people. There's a subsection of famous people, about, I would suggest, only 10 to 15% of them who wear their fame lightly, who handle it well.
Yeah.
You need a certain intelligence.
Yeah. Well, see
the
it
rest
for
of them,
what it is.
The rest of them handle it very badly. Now, as Mike was alluding to, Gary Lineker is addicted to his own fame. He's addicted to being in the papers. He's addicted to headlines about him.
But he was last spotted in Piers Morgan's kitchen.
Really?
Wearing an apron. Piers said he'd hired him as his new chef.
Just an apron.
Well, he had something else on as well. but-
Well, there's an insight into what happens in Piers' kitchen.
Yeah.
But that's all for this week. Big thanks to Mike and Kev, as ever, for being grumpy and in some cases furious. But we'll see you next week. Until then, stay grumpy.